In the grand, often chaotic, and endlessly surprising world of the Greek gods, some stories stand out more than others. They are not just tales of power or passion, but of something truly different, something that shifts the very balance of Olympus. The story of Athena is one such tale. It begins not with a gentle birth, nor with the usual divine romance, but with a headache. A truly monumental, earth-shattering headache. This was no ordinary affliction. This was a pain that belonged to Zeus, the king of the gods himself. It was a pain so immense, so all-consuming, that it felt as though his very skull would crack open and spill his divine thoughts across the heavens. You see, Zeus had a habit of, shall we say, swallowing his problems. In this case, his problem was Metis, the goddess of cunning thought and wisdom. An oracle had warned him that a child born of Metis would one day overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his own father, Kronos. So, Zeus did what any sensible, all-powerful, and slightly paranoid deity would do. He tricked Metis into turning into a fly and swallowed her whole. He thought the problem was solved. But wisdom, you see, is not so easily digested. It grows, it expands, it demands to be heard. And so it was, inside the very being of Zeus, that Metis's child continued to develop. The headache grew worse with each passing moment. The king of the gods, who could command thunder and lightning, was brought to his knees by an internal agony. He roared and bellowed, his cries echoing from the peaks of Mount Olympus to the depths of the underworld. The other gods watched, a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity on their faces. What could possibly ail their mighty leader so? Hephaestus, the master craftsman and god of the forge, was summoned. He arrived with his tools, his brow furrowed with concern. Zeus, in his torment, had but one command: "Cleave my head open!" It was a desperate, mad request, but the pain was too great to bear. With a deep breath and a swing of his mighty axe, Hephaestus struck Zeus's divine skull, and from the wound, something astonishing occurred. There was no blood, no gore, but a brilliant, blinding flash of light. Out of this light stepped a figure, fully grown and clad in gleaming armor. She held a spear in one hand and a shield in the other. Her eyes shone with an intelligence so sharp it could cut diamonds. This was Athena, born not from a womb, but from the mind of the most powerful god. She let out a mighty war cry that shook the foundations of the world. The age of wisdom had arrived. Athena was unlike any other god or goddess on Olympus. While Aphrodite was ruled by love and Ares by blind rage, Athena was governed by intellect, strategy, and a cool, calculating logic. She was the goddess of wisdom, yes, but also of warfare. Not the bloody, chaotic warfare of her half-brother Ares, but the art of strategy and tactical victory. She represented the idea that the sharpest mind is the most powerful weapon. To have Athena on your side in a conflict was to have the blueprint for success. She did not simply fight, she outthought her opponents, seeing 10 moves ahead while they were still contemplating their first. This unique combination of wisdom and martial prowess made her one of Zeus's most trusted advisors. He, who had once feared her birth, came to rely on her counsel above all others. She was his favorite child, a fact that did not go unnoticed by the other Olympians. Athena was given the ultimate symbols of her father's power: the aegis, his impenetrable shield, and the right to wield his devastating thunderbolts. No other child of Zeus was granted such honors. This favoritism was not born of simple affection, but of a deep and abiding respect for her formidable intellect and unwavering loyalty. He saw in her a reflection of his own power, but refined, focused, and free of his own capricious whims. Her mind was a fortress of reason, and her will was forged from the same fire as Hephaestus's finest creations. She was fiercely independent and famously a virgin goddess, swearing never to marry. She was not a prize to be won or a queen to be courted. Her devotion was not to a husband, but to her chosen heroes, her cherished city, and the very principles of justice and civilization she embodied. This made her an enigma on Olympus, a goddess who operated by her own set of rules. She was a force of stability in a world of divine drama, a steady hand guiding the chaotic tides of fate. But do not mistake her calm demeanor for softness. Athena's judgment could be as swift and severe as it was wise. When she was wronged, her retribution was absolute and often terrifyingly creative. The story of Arachne is a chilling example. A mortal weaver who dared to boast that her skill surpassed Athena's, Arachne was challenged to a contest. When her tapestry depicted the gods in a less than flattering light, Athena's fury was unleashed. She did not simply strike Arachne down, she transformed her into the world's first spider, doomed to weave forever as a reminder that hubris, especially when directed at the goddess of wisdom, comes at a terrible price. Athena's influence was not confined to the halls of Olympus. It was woven into the very fabric of the mortal world. Her greatest achievements were often played out on the grand stage of human history and myth. Perhaps the most famous tale is her rivalry with Poseidon, the mighty god of the seas, over a particularly lovely piece of land in Greece. Both deities wanted to be the patron of this new, promising city. To settle the matter, a contest was declared. Whichever god could give the city the more useful gift would win its devotion. It was a classic showdown of brawn versus brains. Poseidon, ever the showman, went first. He struck the rock of the Acropolis with his powerful trident, and from the stone, a saltwater spring gushed forth. It was a dramatic and impressive display of raw power, a symbol of his command over the vast oceans. He offered the people naval supremacy and the wealth of the sea. The people marveled at the spectacle. How could any gift possibly top that? It seemed Poseidon had secured his victory with this grand gesture. But Athena was not one for empty spectacle. She understood that true value lay not in what was impressive, but in what was useful and enduring. Athena's gift was far less dramatic, but infinitely more profound. She quietly planted a seed in the ground. From it grew the first olive tree. She explained to the citizens that this single tree would provide them with media group, mature olive tree in Mediterranean landscape, olives on tree branch, add it stock, add it distribute _ equally, food in the form of olives, oil for their lamps and for cooking, and wood for their homes and ships. It was a gift of peace, sustenance, and prosperity. The people and the other gods who judged the contest immediately saw the superior wisdom in her offering. The city was named Athens in her honor, a testament to her victory and a symbol of civilization's triumph over raw, untamed nature. Her strategic genius was also the deciding factor in the legendary Trojan War. For 10 long years, the Greeks had laid siege to the city of Troy with no end in sight. The war had become a bloody stalemate. It was Athena who whispered the brilliant, cunning idea into the mind of the hero Odysseus, the Trojan horse. This was not a plan of brute force, but of sublime deception. A giant wooden horse left as a supposed offering would conceal the Greeks' best soldiers. The Trojans, believing the war was over, would bring the instrument of their own doom inside their impenetrable walls. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare, a purely Athenian victory of mind over matter. So, what was it about Athena that commanded such profound respect, even from Zeus himself? It was not just her wisdom or her skill in battle. It was the fact that she represented something more than herself. She was the embodiment of an idea, a powerful and revolutionary one. She was the living symbol of intellect as the ultimate power. In a world often ruled by brute strength, inherited titles, and chaotic emotions, Athena stood for the belief that a well-reasoned plan, a clever strategy, and a disciplined mind could overcome any obstacle. This was a concept that was both inspiring and, to those in power, a little frightening. Her birth from Zeus's head was deeply symbolic. She was not a product of his passions, like so many of his other children. She was the product of his thought. In a way, she was his equal in intellect from the moment she was born, an extension of his own divine consciousness, but with a clarity and focus he sometimes lacked. Zeus, who had to fight and scheme to win his throne, saw in Athena a different kind of power, one that did not need to be seized, because it was inherently superior. He feared her potential not because he thought she would betray him, but because he recognized her as a force of nature as fundamental as gravity or time. Think of her character: intelligent, determined, strategic, and unyielding. She was never distracted by petty jealousies or fleeting romances. Her gaze was always fixed on the larger goal, whether it was the flourishing of her city, the victory of her chosen hero, or the upholding of justice. This unwavering focus made her incredibly formidable. While other gods might be swayed by an appeal to their vanity or a tempting offer, Athena could not be bribed or tricked. She operated on a higher plane of logic, making her predictable in her principles but terrifyingly unpredictable in her methods. Ultimately, Athena was more than just a goddess on a throne. She was an unstoppable idea. She was the quiet confidence of the inventor, the careful planning of the general, the spark of insight in the philosopher's mind, and the unshakable resolve of the leader. Zeus, the king of it all, understood this perfectly. He did not fear her in the way a man fears a monster. He respected her as a fundamental truth of the cosmos, that in the end, true, lasting power does not come from the lightning bolt, but from the mind that understands when and where to throw it. And that is a wisdom worthy of a king's awe.